Welcome to the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by GrowthExpertz. You're in store for a chat about funding, marketing, startups, and all things growth.
All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to the Funded Now What podcast. I am your host, Andrew Lee Miller, and I'm really excited today because we get a travel startup on the show. Stephen Dooley, thank you so much. You are the founder and CEO of Roamr. Thank you for joining us. Let me see if I can get this pitch right. So Roamr is a platform that rewards employees for staying with their friends instead of big expensive hotels when they do corporate travel. Is that right?
Sure. Nailed it. Got it in one take.
Okay.
Yeah. Job done for me.
I'll try and go a little bit deeper. Basically, we all often have to travel for work. Maybe not everybody listening to this, and it's really costly. And we probably know somebody in that town. I actually get hit up by friends coming to San Francisco for conferences all the time, or even my best friend will go to a different place and because I work from my computer, be like, "Hey, pull up! I got a huge hotel room. Come and work remotely over here." So the idea of Roamr is that instead of wasting that money on a hotel, if you stay with your friends, you can split the savings between the company and reward the employee. That's the basic gist, right?
That's pretty nailed on. Yeah. I like the idea of just the kind of co-working when on the move too. There's something that we can pull the string on there around the connection and friendship piece as well.
Well, not that many people do that, but if you're a seasoned remote worker, all I need is an invite and a free room and I'll stay. But
I'm there.
So you guys have raised $3 million. You're based in which part of Ireland are you from?
So I'm based in a little town in West Cork. So if you have been to Ireland, Dublin being where most people end up, Cork is the second biggest city. I'm a little bit southwest of that. I kind of liken it to the Colorado of Ireland. So it's a little bit outdoorsy and quiet here.
Nice. Well, that lends itself to being a good place to build a startup, because if you're in Dublin and there was somebody like, let's go to the pub every 5 minutes in the evening, you wouldn't get as much work done. So, that's definitely a problem we have in San Francisco. There's a lot of social distraction. And one of the early marketers at Facebook is really famous for saying that the Silicon Valley is not actually San Francisco. It's like Menlo Park, Palo Alto, because there's nothing to do there. So that's where the most success is, but that's awesome. So how did you get this idea? First of all, a little town outside of Cork, were you doing a lot of business travel yourself or what?
No, not really. I took a very different lens into this. So my background prior to Roamr was that I was doing PhD research. I was basically looking into how Uber and Airbnb did what they did. So my one-liner that I summarize it there is that my parents gave me two lessons in life. Don't get in the car with a stranger and don't answer the door to a stranger. And then Uber and Airbnb just ripped the playbook up on what we thought was completely unacceptable, right? It was like the highest standing societal no-no. Absolutely don't do that. And now we've got these two $80 billion or so companies. So I was just really interested in how did they achieve that? How did they overcome those kind of high standing no-nos? And that led me to PhD research. So I was living in that like lens of the world, if we will. And then COVID hit. So at the same time as in the PhD research, I was running a business faculty in a college here in Ireland. Everything went online. And then that kind of gave me a little bit of there's a tailwind here. Something is changing in the world more broadly. And it kind of kicked off pulling the thread about how to start a business like this.
Wow. And when did you start this? Because I was scared in 2020. Is business travel dead forever? Is no one ever going to travel ever again? And it's ramping back up. But when did you make the plunge into, this is going to be a thing forever? We need to help.
Yeah. So the company was formed 2 years and maybe 4 or 5 months ago. So July 2023, but had been kind of like, playing around with different variations of what the idea might be before kind of formalizing it for a little while before that. And like I said, was kind of living in that lens of the world for several years prior to that, but kind of very officially, we have a company. It was just 2.5 years or so.
Awesome. No, that's good. That makes sense. That's when it was like clear that people were going to keep traveling for work again. Like 2022, 2021, my speaking engagements were very sparse. And I had to fly to Europe a few times, and you had to get vaccinated. Then you had to have a mask of a certain cloth. And after all that shit went out the window, then I think travel came back for work. So are the users mostly in Europe or in the US, or where are your business travelers nowadays?
Yeah, we're pretty excited because we got to users in 100 countries like really, really quickly.
Wow.
Now, I would love them to be using it more. Like there's only, you get some folks in and you get them around you, but we got some partnerships up and running early with companies like Deal and Oyster. And, the way that we thought about that was right. If you're a company that uses an employer of record, it's likely that you have people in different locations, which means it's likely that you're going to have to spend money on travel to bring them together more regularly. So it felt like a good lens, and like the kind of angle on that partnership was like, hey, you guys have handled work from anywhere. Like you've built the framework that allows people to be based in any country. I think the next frontier is going to be work from everywhere. The bridge between the two of those is just the sheer cost of travel. So it felt aligned. So that gave us a kickstart and to get folks out there, but very much focused on the US as a market for us. Bunch of reasons as to why, but I'm very interested in the friend networks in the US form very differently to Ireland and Europe. There's a couple of barriers there, right? For example, in Ireland, most people go to university an hour from home. Like if you grew up in Dublin, you tend to go to Dublin. If you grew up in Cork, you go to Cork. Maybe 90% of the people do that. I spent a year studying in San Diego. So I got a lens into how college works over there. And it's like people fly all across the world, all across the country rather, and they make friends for 4 years and join fraternities. And then within 2 or 3 years of college finishing, they've got a friend in every major business city in the country. So it feels like a really aligned place for a kind of a friend-to-friend network to be building on top of it.
Yeah, it makes sense too, because the U.S. is so massive. There's a lot of domestic travel for work inside that's not very expensive. So, it's a big market as opposed to being a European company. Like to go that distance from like Russia to the U.K. is less likely for a conference or something, or vice versa. So that's cool. And I think, across the board, when I work with international founders, the U.S. market surprises, as we're just much more early adopters of random shit. Like we're very comfortable being like, yeah, I'll save $300 to stay with my friends, as opposed to like not Irish culture, but a lot of European countries are like more risk averse. I mean, the end user is like, I'm not staying. Like you said, it was your parents told you do not stay at someone's house. I was already huge into couch surfing before Airbnb came out. I had already stayed in like 30, 40 countries on people's floor and couch. So Americans are, for all of our faults, definitely very large risk appetite here with travel related things, I think. But
and beyond that, just a general openness to new ideas, like for sure. Like even if you look out in Silicon Valley, like that tends to be a nucleus of if you can conquer it there first, it's likely that within a couple of years, everybody else is going to be following suit. So yeah, no, for sure. That's like a reason for it.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I live here for that exact reason. We're in the future a little bit, like a year and a half. And so I'm able to see some trends before they come out. I mean, the example that I always tell people was I shared an office space with a company in 2014 that was like, you've got to buy Bitcoin. They were literally like shaking people in the co-working space every day after work. And everyone was like, what? It's not, and that was about 8 years before the rest of the world got on that train. And so now, not to blab, I want to hear all about Roamr and fundraising, but now what I'm feeling in the future is a bit of agentic burnout. So a lack of desire to even try a new agent that saves me time. And so that's what I'm worried about for the rest of the world is going to hit that same level of annoyance. But we'll talk about that another time. So
for sure. Hey, I've got a piece on that though. Like it annoys me that all these agentic kind of companies that are rolling out, they tend to say travel is going to be the easiest place to solve this problem. Like if you've ever traveled using any corporate travel tools that are out there, there's layers upon layers, and it's like this big jumbled up bunch of wires that you have to plug into the OTAs and the GDSs, and it's actually extremely complex. Yeah. So if you've booked your flight or your hotel on a platform and then there's a connecting flight and you get there and it's not booked, that already is the worst part about corporate travel, the customer support element. And people think we're going to now add agents into the mix and it'll make it amazing. Like you've lit a fire.
I doubt that heavily, Yeah, we could riff on that forever, but I think that, I think travel's safe for a while. It's like, my dad's in the jewelry industry and he's in the physical retail business, 50 years in the same space. And, he always brags that Amazon can't touch him because people enjoy the hand holding part of the experience. And I think even if people say they hate like booking their own travel, I think there's something fun to it. It's the dopamine slow release of I'm getting on this trip. And, I always tell clients, just send me the money. I'll book my own corporate travel. So I'm your ideal user because I want to make sure I get the right thing. I want to make sure that I get the points. And if I can, I'll stay with a friend and just keep the cash as well. So
for sure. We'll get you on boarded after this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm limiting. I only travel for my favorite clients nowadays, and I'm mostly working with San Francisco companies. But if there's somebody in Ireland out there listening to this, no, I'm just kidding. Then I don't have to. I'll stay at Stevens and split the cost.
There we go. There we go.
But okay, so back to the fundraising. So I don't think I've had any Irish founders on the show. What was it like? Is it easier, harder, difficult? Like, what did you learn raising $3 million for this project?
Yeah, it was my first time, so a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
We took probably a different path generally, and then we probably took a very different path than other companies in Ireland would tend to take. The ecosystem in Ireland is very centralized for startups. There's a gift and a curse to that. So there's a couple of almost like startup co-working spaces that will model themselves similar to like YC, but with the physical presence. And if you're not really kind of in the mix there and showing up there, it's not that you get shut out, but like so much of it happens in that centerpiece. And then I think there's a challenge for Irish founders where I wouldn't call it a lack of ambition because that feels like, an unfair insult, but it's almost like a lack of awareness of what looking outside of Ireland could bring you. So for us, we were quite US focused early in that journey. There's a few reasons. Like if you go down the VC route in Ireland, the numbers that come back your way in terms of term sheet offers are very different to the numbers that come your way if you're talking to VCs out in the US. We didn't end up taking any of the term sheets. We went completely down an angel route, which is probably an interesting decision in and of itself to pull apart. But for us, we took a different approach early. It was kind of like sat around and said, right, what don't we know or where are the gaps for us here? Did a bunch of customer discovery with like folks who might be buyers or might be really aware of what we didn't know. So examples are like chief people officers based in tech companies out in SF. I've never been a chief people officer. When we were first building the product, we were pitching towards those kind of folks. And also one of the core objections that was coming up in the conversations with investors was around employee safety as a potential barrier to adoption. So like the original version of Roamr was kind of more pitched as like this colleague to colleague thing. Now we've broadened the realm of that into Roamr for Friends. But once we got talking to some chief people officers, they just helped us out. Like it was like, how do you frame our thinking on this? And then you form those relationships over a while. And then out of nowhere, we're kind of like, hey, we're actually thinking about raising some money. We'd love you to be part of the journey. And those folks came along with us.
Wow.
So some of the early investors were US based for us, which very much changed maybe the perception of the other people when we like actively started a fundraising process in Ireland. It was kind of like we'd shown an ambition to be like, hey, we're very focused on the US. It's a big market. And that kind of ambition to Irish investors is something that they want to see because Ireland is a small market. If you're trying to test in Cork and then go to Dublin, it's like, what's the TAM? Whereas if you're just like, we want to get out of here, we want to go to the big market. And then by already having a couple of investors from that location, a few things happened. It showed them that we can get out there and build relationships out there, but also then the cost play, something's opening up on my screen here now. I've jumped off it. The cost piece on how much we're going to raise and how much for and what are we going to sell kind of gets anchored in a US mindset rather than the Irish smaller numbers for evaluation. So there was kind of an upside in a few ways. And then having chief people officers kind of helped overcome that objection of would they buy it? It's like, not only would they buy it, they're investing in it. So there's hopefully some sense of belief there.
I love that. I always tell founders, even if you can't close a customer to get early traction before raising money, going and speaking to your customers and getting LOIs is enough. But you took it a step further and actually got those potential customers to write you checks. And that is the ultimate form of validation, I think, is not only will they use our product, they love it, the idea so much that they're willing to invest. And then you take that back to Ireland, and people where they don't want to be the first check are like, okay, yeah, we'll follow those seasoned Silicon Valley people or whatever, and that de-risks it for them. I love that. And I think timing is also really important because, you know, a lot of business travel things died during the pandemic, and then you're reborn after with a less competitive market, a lot more cost savings focus for the orgs in general, because business travel has just always been like so expensive. So I think timing is also really important there, but that's cool. Awesome.
We got kind of lucky on the timing too, from like a fundraise perspective. I don't know how replicable what happened to us is, but we had originally raised like a smaller pre-seed round on safe notes. So we did uncapped safe notes. It was like 573K. And we did that in like October. And then kind of turn of the new year, some of the existing investors kind of got together and said, hey, we love what's going on here. Can we have a conversation about like maybe preempting or what comes next? So we got very lucky in terms of what
that's that not
led
luck,
to.
That's not luck. I don't think if you're doing enough exciting things that your investors meet on their own and devise a way to put more money in your company behind your back, I don't think that's luck. You're onto something that's exciting people, and they see the horizon. I wouldn't say it's luck, if that makes sense.
Well, we'll take the compliment, but you know, there's elements of sometimes things fall your way a little bit.
It's weird. The harder you work, the luckier you get. You know, so it's like, you know, like we say luck, but it's probably to your own credit. So, well, awesome. Well,
maybe it's the Irish thing.
Yeah. You eat humble pie all the time. So no, I mean, like it's not. I mentioned offline before we started recording that I was in the travel space. The last time I was a full-time employee was in the travel space, 2014 to 2016. Was head of marketing of a travel startup that raised similar amount of money and was an AI startup way too early. And we ended up exiting, but I remember the difficulty in the space. Like, you know, it's very tight knit. There's a lot of interesting incubators. I don't know if they're all still around. You know, organizations like Travel Massive, which I did recently look up, that are still around a little bit, but used to be huge. Do you know Travel Massive?
Yeah.
They used to be huge in San Francisco. But I know that it's a difficult space. I mean, it's weird because it's a massive TAM, you know, even if business travel affects, you said 100 countries, yet it's not a huge focus from a lot of investors, and it's only like travel specific investors usually that are in it. And when people are like, oh, you're in the travel space too, like it's like a tight knit clique. And so it is fun to be in. And I've actively looked for fun projects since then to consult on. I don't know if, what was it called? Hit List. Shout out to Hit List in San Francisco back in the day. They're now defunct. I was a consultant there for a long time. Anyway, so cool. Now I want to hear marketing and growth related statistics that not exactly, you don't need to tell us exactly where you're at, but so US is the focus. How are you acquiring customers right now, and how can I help in that regard?
Yeah, well, like the context is we're still pre-product market fit, right? We're still pushing a rock up a hill. Okay. It's a new concept, and one of the challenges we've found just from our marketing perspective, and then lack of performance in certain channels is I think the problem is that people are pattern matching what they're used to seeing and trying to make sense of what Roamr is. Like if you think about it, so we brought in like an absolute beast of a guy who was the head of growth at Ramp to help us out, fire up the LinkedIn paid strategy, and like it wasn't as fruitful as we wanted, and kind of distilling why. If you're scrolling, if you're like we can pitch it to a CFO, we can pitch it to HR, we pitch it to travel managers. VP of sales has weirdly lately been a channel where they're like, hey, I want to bring my team members to London, but I can't get the budget. Can I like pitch Roamr to my procurement team, and then it'll be cheaper? So there's like across the C-suite, we can drive value, and that means it's a challenge for refining like what's the fastest way to do this and acquire customers. So a lot of experimentation still going on, but ultimately one of the challenges that we've kind of distilled from that B2B sales motion is if people are scrolling past this one tile where you're trying to say this is exactly what Roamr is, you need to stop what you're doing and you need to click through and you need to learn more and book a demo. It's limited in the space. So our one-liner is like, we help companies save 30% on travel every single time they book a trip, and we do it by paying employees instead of hotels. but even the visuals of what we do, we look like other corporate travel TMCs. Like people would look at companies like Navan and TravelPerk and they kind of see like a similar branding effort. And then both of those companies would talk about driving savings on hotels. The way that we do it is very different, but I feel like people pattern match in ways and they might scroll past it. So like we already have a travel tool that does that.
Yeah.
Like we're very different, right? We take the money that would have gone to the hotel. If the price point, let's say you got 2 nights out in SF, it's going to be $1,000 on hotels. Instead, if you stay on Roamr, you get paid 30% of that and your friend gets paid 30% of it and the company saves 30%. So the model is different, but it takes a while to get that across. So there's the B2B motion. We found being in front of people, being on the road and like having a decent presence at the big travel trade shows probably will pay more dividends for us now than maybe another company trying to crack into the space.
Hand-to-hand combat, because so what it is anytime you're this innovative, you have to spend a lot of effort, time, money on education. And so retargeting is probably something that you should invest in. That's why it's the first hit. Just plants a seed, then retargeting content needs to be a video testimonial of Andrew with his friend at his house saying, I just saved 30% on coming to SF so my company can send me twice as much. And if that's something that's interesting to them. Mm-hmm. But it needs to be further down the funnel content. Second, third, fourth touch is, I think that's one thing. But I think the second thing there is maybe the employee needs to be the wedge. Because they're the one, like the company cares less about, they do care about saving money, but they want whatever that business thing to happen like successfully and easily, right? And so I think there's education that needs to happen is how is it safe? Why is it worth saving the money to do? How is it easy? How does our platform make it seamless, whatever? You need to educate that, because if I'm the sales director and going to take 10 people to London, I'm going to know they're staying with their friends. They're going to get wasted with their friends, probably. Like they're going to get wasted no matter what, because it's London and you're a sales team. You're like, oh, let's fucking crush this deal. Like what a bad example, maybe. You ever met a sales team that travels internationally? They're like insane. But, so I think that there needs to be education along that. But if the individual employee makes one quick purchase decision and they can convince when we do outreach, there's the top down approach and there's the bottoms up approach, and every single project is different. I can never say, even by industry, what's going to work bottoms up or top down. Top down is C-level person. They respond way less, but when they respond, it's a big deal, short sales cycle. They can push it forward. Bottoms up, great responses. They can't get the deal closed, so you have to follow up. You have to do multiple layers of bureaucratic meetings and whatever, but they're interested usually. And so you have to test both of those targets, and then you have to have the content to help them move it along. Sometimes it could be a pre-recorded demo. Sometimes it's case studies. Sometimes it's a PR article that's going to help them convince people higher up the funnel. But have you done employee-specific marketing and paid advertising?
Yeah, something that we're focused on like only very recently as like a core effort from the team. But the concept is pretty much what you've articulated there, right? Is like when we talk in these B2B conversations, we're talking to finance managers, travel managers, like the question will prop up being like, okay, if we look at our travel budget, how many trips could be a Roamr stay and what do we think adoption is going to be like? That question will become easier and easier to answer with more customers and more case studies. And you can say, well, a company similar to you has this many people, this much spend, here's how much we save them. And you can box tick it. But the plan now is if we can get this bottom up swell going, you can walk into those conversations going, hey, we've already saved you 2,500 and it's like very organically happening. Why don't we megaphone this thing internally? We should drive way more savings for you guys. And then you're overcoming 2 hurdles. You've already shown an immediate time to value. You've shown it's safe. You've shown it's ready to be adopted by the workforce. And then there's also layers of controls and rate setting that we could add. So, we can drive even more savings. If you go out to SF, for example, during Dreamforce, the price of a hotel out there is about $1,000 per night. But if you're a company that's onboarded fully as a company on Roamr, you can set like upper limit rates. So let's say you set the rate at $500 per night on Roamr for SF. you pay 70% of that. So every single time you're saving 30%. The rest is split between the traveler and their host. But in the periods when Dreamforce is in town or Taylor Swift is in town or the World Cup is in, it's going to be 1,000. So you're saving the 30% below the line of 500 and you're saving all of the delta above that. So there's other reasons then to crack open the conversation. But if we can walk in the door there going, people are already using it. Let's just roll it out fully.
Concept makes it a lot less risk. I think that safety also isn't just the fact that they're going to be safe, like physically safe. I think it's like, is this person going to wake up on time? Is this person going to have a night out on the piss after? Because most people that are traveling for work, you just come home, pass out in the hotel, you know? So you need to be able to prove that. And so if the individual employee can do that, and I think there's product stuff that can be a part of that, like the product notifies the person like, hey, it's 9 o'clock, get back to your friend's house, you know, like, fuck, you know, but so, yeah, I think it's just an easier decision for that employee. Like, oh, I have to go on this trip anyway. I'd love to save money, as opposed to an org-wide thing. So what are you doing? Is that just LinkedIn ads? Are you doing automated LinkedIn outreach to certain job titles? And what are you doing to get those customers?
Yeah, so the way that we use LinkedIn so far primarily was B2B and getting paid up and running there. So when we're thinking about the B2C style acquisition, right, it's still B2B2C in terms of spend because it's always a work trip. That's meta that we've gone after. So pushing a little bit of extra content, trying to pattern disrupt a little bit differently and come at it from a different angle, but speaking through the tone of voice directly to the end user, testing different almost like themes of the pain point or the value proposition. What's interesting about us is that you can kind of splice it up a few different ways, right? There's a certain cohort of people where you're saying, hey, you're leaving money behind you. When you travel for work, you could be earning $600 a month extra just to stay with your friends. There's also a cohort of people who are like, hey, do you want to be in your friends' good books because you've helped them earn 600 quid? So there's, you know, we can kind of splice it up a few different ways. And genuinely, we see some folks care about like the actual experience and the connection. Like my lived experience is once kind of college, a couple of years has passed by, I've got friends in different cities that you just naturally grow apart from because kind of the distance doesn't help you stay relevant. Right. Like one particular buddy comes to mind. I did a work trip to London. It was a conference. I stayed at his place. So we finished up the conference, went back home, chilled out and ordered Lebanese food. I met his girlfriend for the first time. I heard what he was struggling with because he had injury from training and like how that's mentally impacting him. We got up a little bit earlier the following morning to grab a coffee and just kind of have a chat. And like that moment of the reconnection of the friendship, and it's almost like resetting the context of like, now I know what's going on in your life so we can stay a little bit more connected. That has value. Like that part of it is important. And hey, it's great that I got to hand him a couple of £100 and I got a couple of £100 too, but because there's a little bit of interesting storytelling there, how do we leverage that into the marketing that we're trying to figure out?
It's making employees happier to go on that trip for the company, which will then impact the company because employees are going to be more jovial and excited to go expand the revenue of that business. You don't need to sell me. I love the idea. Like I said, I was already a crazy traveler for a really long time, and I would rather stay. I don't really like hotels very much, so I'd rather stay with people and, like you said, maintain those connections. I'm the type of dude that often, hey, I have to go to MWC in Barcelona. I'm going to stop in London and see my friends before then. Just, you know, clients paying for it, so I'm already there. Let's talk a little bit about B2B marketing. So like I mentioned, you know, not to brag, a little bit in the future here. And I see two main things that it sounds like you guys aren't really doing that are really going to be in 2026, probably the most powerful ways to grow a B2B company. And that is LinkedIn marketing. So there's 5 pieces inside of LinkedIn marketing that I teach and talk about. It's not just posting on the founders page, which you should absolutely do. Your personal and company strategy should be all about corporate travel, saving money, corporate travel trends, taking shit from Skift and from other news articles and writing your feedback and your opinion on it. It does not need to take a lot of time. What I tell founders to do is either get an intern from University of Dublin or whatever, and that's all they do is once a month they sit with you and they go through 30 days worth of content that they created and you approve it and then they schedule it and then it's being posted. So that is at least 10 or 15% of LinkedIn marketing. And that's because the next things that we do to grow your actual follower base and your connections when we're trying to sell through automated outreach and whatever, a lot of those people just accept the connection and then don't convert from later messages. So we convert them later on by doing organic posting, and they see the thing. Every single post has a call to action to sign up on Roamr. Even if you don't have any business travel planned yet, sign up so that you're ready and you can find out about product updates. We do crazy business travel giveaways, all kinds, whatever it is. You want people to sign up long before they have a need. Not every company's traveling quarterly or every month or whatever. You want people to sign up so that they actually realize they can do more business travel. You want to, Roamr, you want to actually convince them to go to that conference, to go to that thing, because now you can save more. You can actually do more as a company earlier. So that's what your messaging on LinkedIn needs to shift to organically. The second part, like I mentioned, is organic outreach. So organic outreach could literally be you on Sales Nav making a list of people. You test. I like hand-to-hand testing of organic messages. We talked about testing the target, top down, bottoms up, org size, geolocation. If they're in Atlanta or Houston or New York, these are airports that fly very cheaply out of to anywhere. Denver as well, at least on this side. San Francisco, not so much, and everyone's like super remote, over here. So it's better. I think New York and Miami, these are places where everybody's like a lot more face-to-face financial companies and stuff. So you're likely to get a high percentage of people. Anyway, so a couple weeks of testing that organically, and then we really figure out the targets, the messaging, the features, the price, whatever we want to say. And then you can scale that up using a bunch of different automation tools. I often shout out, it's a European founder. I want to say he's Dutch, could be Irish. It's one of the two. It's called Dux Soup, D-U-X Soup. Still, people don't know it. And it's a 10-year-old tool long before there was AI. What, you know it?
No, is it similar to like Phantom Buster type of thing?
Similar to Phantom Buster. Phantom Buster does a lot of other stuff. They do have a LinkedIn automation tool in Phantom Buster, but this one works better. I've used everything. Duck Soup, shout out to them. Used them for at least 7 years until we just built an internal tool with my company. But absolutely amazing the way that they're unbelievable customer support, and they will run automation for you for 50 quid a month that will grow your audience to, mine is like 20,000 followers, and mostly through that automation. So I've had automation running for 7 years to startup founders. That's just to build my network and connect with them, offer them free content. Here's a chapter of my book, whatever. So I like being aggressive, and the first message is always like, do you suck at marketing, or something like really short and question. So for yours, it would say, hey, are you guys doing any business travel in 2026? And they go, yeah, actually, yeah, we travel a lot. Or no, we're not traveling. Oh, well, if they say no, is it because it's too expensive? Because my company can save you 30% on business travel. If you're interested to know how, I'd love to show you. And if they say yes, awesome. Well, I could save you 30%. Like literally it's the same answer.
Yeah, it's percentage. How would you spend those? How would you split those efforts from the top down and the bottom up on that LinkedIn strategy? Because on the flip side, we could be hitting salespeople being like, hey, you travel into a city where you know a friend. Yeah, let me know where it is. I'll tell you how much money you could get paid and how much money they could get paid. It's free to sign up. Off you go. So, we could play it both ways.
Well, if you haven't had a lot of success in the top-down approach, then I would just focus on the bottoms-up for a while. I think that maybe split it 50-50 in the beginning just to see. I mean, if you're talking like a week, and then you'll see who's accepting, who's acknowledging, who's commenting, who's responding. When someone responds, the automation stops, and then you have to take it over. So you'll very easily be able to see what's working, what's not working. The third part of LinkedIn marketing, just for the sake of time here, is what I call off-page social media marketing, or monitoring hashtags and keywords, which people don't even realize you can do on LinkedIn. You can follow hashtag business travel and then see every post worldwide that's talking about business travel and comment on each one. You could save 30% on that. You could save 30% on that, and it's below your pay grade. But again, it's hand-to-hand combat as a founder. And so I do like early stage founders doing it 10 minutes a day in the morning. Like literally you tell your girlfriend, wife, husband, whoever you got laying in bed with you, sorry, this is for work. And the first thing every day is you get on your phone on LinkedIn. And, I use that excuse many times with my partner, but she was like, yeah, whatever, but anyway, so the idea is that you very quickly understand who's talking about business travel, who's doing it, what industry. You just need to be on top of that. The same thing for off of LinkedIn. I use Google Alerts the same way. Like I want to be looking at every single thing, article, conference, blog, YouTuber, podcast, anyone that's talking about business travel, so you can really find out all the places you need to inject yourself. But for LinkedIn, I do find that is the fastest way from social media to acquire customers, is from commenting, liking, and engaging with people that are self-qualifying by what they're posting. The fourth part is running low budget paid ads on LinkedIn. So you mentioned Meta. I don't really like that for this business. I don't know if you're seeing a lot of success there, but maybe, if you can target, again, cities where there's a lot of business travelers, or there's a lookalike audience option to upload your list, and that gives you people. But I just feel like people don't engage and talk about work much anymore on Meta platforms. And I think that you're going to have a lot of fat from that campaign, would be my guess. As opposed to LinkedIn, I can say, you mentioned, remote first companies likely have the most travel. I can upload 500 names of actual companies and put all the roles that might be the decision makers, even the individual salesperson or a head of people or whatever, chief people officer, et cetera. And it will only show to those people. Now, it doesn't convert wildly well, but it's extremely cheap, like, a couple £100 a month to show to all those people. You frequency cap it at like 5 times. You can show further down the funnel content. But what I found is when we go do that sales-led motion and the company's seen our shit everywhere, it's a very different conversation. So those are all the pieces that I think are valuable in LinkedIn marketing. I might have missed one thing. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe LinkedIn Lives, I think, is the other thing. Every once in a while, you do a LinkedIn Live. Like, I might shift actually this podcast to just doing it on LinkedIn Live in the future, just because I have so many followers there. And when we reshare the content, it's not as picked up as, there's just a very small percentage that are doing LinkedIn Live, and it sends a notification to all of your followers. So again, those people that are accepting a connection request are then seeing Roamr, Stephen Dooley every fucking day when they're signing in. And they just imagine that you're a really famous person. I literally get stopped. It's not often, but at least twice this year, I got stopped on the street in San Francisco from LinkedIn. It's the weirdest feeling ever. But I'm like, okay, I put the collar on and pop it up or whatever. I'm like, wow, okay. It's a vanity metric, but at least lets you know that you're doing something right. So that's LinkedIn. Any questions there? Probably.
No, the way that we've separated it so far, the way that we've thought about it is almost like B2B focus for the LinkedIn stuff, and then use Meta for more of the bottom-up approach, kind of working our way into a TikTok account. It's very, very nascent and early, but it feels like the tone of voice there that we're using, is hey, you could be earning money next time you're traveling. On Meta, there's at least these different categories of like frequent traveler, came back from travel in the last 2 weeks. So you have a way of, I know what you mean, that there's like a big kind of fat and bloat that can happen and you're spending unnecessarily. But it's been decent. Like, we're seeing some folks come through the gates, and we got to get better at it. It's pretty nascent still, but that's how we've kind of separated the two of them so far.
That all makes sense. And sorry for interrupting you a little bit. There's a bit of a time delay. We'll just say we'll blame San Francisco, not Ireland, on that. But our internet sucks here for some reason. Right? It's been a 15-year or 10-year complaint for me, and everybody laughs about it. Anyway, but so I think you're early to do that. That would be next phase of paid ads. Like, when we raise a bunch of money, then we can really make the brand famous. That's when you do Meta. I want to be really targeted to only the really frequent business travelers. We want repeat customers. We don't want someone coming in once a year yet. I don't want to pay to acquire someone that thinks it's cool and maybe they're going to get to do it in 6 months. I want someone that's going to be a frequent traveler, going to come in, expand to the rest of their organization relatively quickly. You want to, and so those people are going to be easily acquired from LinkedIn. So I do really believe that the LinkedIn should be the focus. Also, paid search. So paid search, Google search is the easiest place to run ads. And I always say, even a bootstrap startup, the first place you should ever spend money is Google search, because if someone's searching for certain business travel searches, then you know that you can really save them some money. It's an opportunity to get a cheap click, and there's high intent, and so it's a bit costly.
What would you think the intent signals would be for Roamr though? It's a challenge, right? No one's typing into Google right now, hey, how do I pay my employees to stay with their friends on work trips?
No. I'm talking about the individual customer. I'm talking about the individual users that's searching like ways to save money for a business trip to London, like a really long tail thing. So I won't go super deep into the paid search stuff, but that can be really long tail, exact term, your top 20 cities, make ad groups for each city, your 10 ways that they can search for it. But it's something around saving money on business travel. That is the actual lever. There's no, an end user might do it for fun to go with their friends and get some side money that they, if it was me, I would spend the money with my friends. So we have 500 quid. Let's go out tonight to the fanciest dinner and it'll be free, And so I think it's an amazing experience, experiential opportunity for the work trip. And it could be, I'll stay one extra day and we'll do it at the end. It doesn't have to interfere with the work trip. But so that's the lever. But the second thing that I wanted to talk about is GEO. Do you know what GEO is? Yeah, everybody's talking about it. I actually,
paranoid.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing. It's a great thing for you, because what we're seeing with B2B is that the vendor research is being outsourced to ChatGPT a lot now. And so enterprise, even more than small businesses, are just all the decision making is get done by ChatGPT and Grok and Perplexity and Microsoft Copilot, whatever people want to use, Gemini. And so I actually have a new book coming out in January. I won't say the title. Well, whatever. It's How to Get Your Business in ChatGPT. And we're just finishing editing right now. But it's that exciting, because in April I started working on this stuff. And now all of our business at GrowthExpertz comes from AI, startup founders asking AI. And so really quickly, just to go through that, that is a content marketing exercise. It starts as an SEO exercise. You need to make sure that your website is fast, mobile friendly, socially connected, keyword dense, and like usable on mobile as well. And then the second part of that is really launching a lot of content that is not keyword focused. It's that conversational phrase that I mentioned. So you want to come up in every search, discussion, request of AI that is related to how do I save money on business travel in 2026. And then the last part of it is a PR initiative, which we'll get to, but which I think you've already done a little bit of. I did look you up, but on the content side, it's all the 50 ways that people might want to ask ChatGPT to save money on. So what are the top tools for business travel in 2026? What are the top trends for business travel in 2026? What are the top ways to save money on business travel in New York? Like, you can make 50 different versions of those articles. You can batch out the release. So 10 articles a week we release. Literally, we just put them on our blog and set and forget. And within 3 to 6 months, you're getting a shit ton of quality traffic from ChatGPT. I mean, it's way more detailed than that. The articles need to have an FAQ section at the top. They need to like really be focused on the answers and the value. If you ever cook and you look at for a recipe online, like the first recipe that comes up is always like so annoyingly repetitive. It's like if you're making chicken cacciatore, then the best chicken cacciatore recipe is from the birthplace of chicken cacciatore or whatever. You have to, it's not that level of keyword stuffing, but there's an ethical massaging way to get it done. But that really works. And I think that you want those inbound customers with a product like this. So your outbound is going on LinkedIn, you've got your ads running, your outreach going, and your inbound needs to be GEO, SEO, and PR. So on the PR side, I mean, travel industry is rife with a lack of innovation. So it's wide open blue ocean for you. Like, nobody's doing interesting things really in the space. I'm sure you have already developed a PR list and a relationship with like Skift and stuff. Do you know the team there? Do you get them to cover you guys? And
Skift is actually the one we're missing, but we've been lucky enough. We've got some of the folks at like Business Travel Show, and we've been kind of highlighted at any of those major travel shows this year as one of the innovators of the year. So spend a little bit of time cultivating that this summer and getting out on the road and pushing forward and kind of get picked up by some folks in Europe in that space as well too.
So secret hack for getting skiffed is making a report. So for non-travel industry people, there's Focusrite and there's Skift. And these are like the two biggest news publication, travel industry, magazine, article, news, whatever, reporters. Anyway, so what I found when I was at Allset, this travel company that exited, was we were able to get global press by taking our data and putting it into a report and giving that to the media. I actually we were a hotel and flight personalization algorithm, and we categorized billions of review sentiments, and we made an interactive map of San Francisco that you could hone in and view by positive and negative sentiments of a different category and see like a heat map of San Francisco based on complaints of Wi-Fi, for instance, or positive sentiments about staff. Like, I want to stay with the best staff. And the idea was that that's really interesting data for a reporter, writer. And we expanded to nationwide, it's called engineering as marketing, when you like build something for virality that isn't going to convert that product, but it'll get people into your universe. So we did that. And so with Skift, I mean, maybe you could put out 2026 business travel trends. Like, what did we see in 2025 that we think is going to be a trend for business travel? It's really easy. You can literally just poll all your current users, like in the email blast, fill out this form for a chance to win a $500 gift card a Visa card to use on your next business travel trip. That $500 cost is the only cost you have. You take all this information and then you put it into a press release and you send that out to Skift and the other travel media. You'd be surprised how many people will quote you, link to you, pick that up, and then maybe get another opportunity to make a story about you after that. But yeah, it gets out to the media, and it's very targeted, this travel industry. Like, everybody knows about it. So that will help all the other acquisition efforts as well. But really, it's about PR creates a ton of valuable links to the website and the business that then makes ChatGPT, Google, Grok, Gemini really trust you. So being active on social, getting a bunch of other businesses to link to you that are old domains that are literally just pumping out content that are really trustworthy in Google's eyes, it really validates the business, and you can move past all your competition. I literally, in San Francisco, I go to events and I'm like, hey, ask ChatGPT right now who's the best fractional CMO for startups in San Francisco is. And obviously my team wrote that fucking article. Now you might listen and be like, oh, that's unethical. No, I back it up with my work. I wouldn't be doing those things if I wasn't as confident. And I also unbiasedly include all my competitors. There's 9 other people on that top 10 list below me. And we just know that number one's going to get the most click through. And so, but it's really funny. Like, I have meetings every week with startups around the world. Funny enough, a lot of people from Dubai are using ChatGPT. I also had a big startup success there. Maybe that's why, but I get a lot of meetings from startups in Dubai. And just yesterday, a lady was like, I asked, did you find me on ChatGPT? And she's like, yeah, oh no, it was Gemini. And I was like, that's awesome. Tell me about that. And she's like, yeah, I don't trust Google results anymore, but I trust the AI. And I'm like, I didn't want to tell her. It's the exact same thing. We're just in this unique time frame right now where people just believe that the AI is smarter than humanity already. And so that's why I was saying the B2B decisions are shorter sales cycle when ChatGPT says these companies are reputable because they're like, oh, it's scanning the internet and making sure there's no negative press, there's no bad reviews of that business. But, so if you're an end user listening to this, you still got to do your due diligence when you use AI. But for Roamr, I think that if you really focus on LinkedIn marketing and all the pieces that I mentioned and really owning the ways to save money and the top tools and the top trends and including yourself as number one in that content, you'd be surprised how many companies will come inbound to you. And then the last piece I mentioned was doing some Google search and spending some money on that, like with the long tail around ways to save money. You could literally have it land on the same article, by the way. So with Google search, there's this thing called the quality score. Do you know what that is?
Nope.
Nice. It's sad how not famous that is anymore. Google invented many incredible things in the early 90s. One of them with AdSense was, or with AdWords was the quality score. Basically, they look at the relevance, the SEO relevance of the landing page to the keyword that you're trying to spend money on. And the higher the quality score, the lower they charge you cost per click. It's the most intelligent way to get quality advertising of any advertising platform. It's also much more difficult to do, which is why they get the least amount of spend compared to Meta nowadays, because any idiot, no offense, I didn't mean it like that. Anybody can just go to Meta and be like, oh, I want to spend money on my company. But I didn't mean to insult any marketers out there that love Meta, but you're in a way too competitive space because there's no barrier to entry, as opposed to doing it the hard way and getting targeted ads on search that convert at a very high level. If you make an article about top ways to save money on business travel in 2026, and that's the key term that it's focused on, it will get organic rankings from Google. It will get organic article links for traffic from ChatGPT, et cetera. But you can also target ads to it the day you write it, and it will have a high quality score, which should increase or decrease the cost per click. And then you can come up, and you can imagine, I would bet thousands of people per hour are searching for business travel related things around the country. And so, maybe not this exact time, but January, they're going to immediately start plotting out their 2026. So if you have the content and ads ready, I think you'll be ready to soar.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like the geo stuff is, how much of a weighting do you add on the G2 and the Reddit element of the B2B buying process as well? And then for us, the challenge that we have across the board in terms of like our bandwidth and where do we point our guns basically is, until you get to that product market fit understanding, is bottom up or top down going to be the runner, the thing that really drives it for us. Then you start optimizing all of that SEO around it. So it's there's nuance for Roamr specifically, right? Because the intent signal, even that long tail search, if we're trying to do the top down piece, you're trying to find what are finance managers and travel managers, type it into Google to try to save money, and you can kind of proxy some of it. But then on the bottom up approach, it's a very different thing, because very few salespeople who travel for work are saying, how can I save my company money on travel? Right? Maybe you get the VPs of sales who are saying things like, how do I get more out of my travel budget? But that's more akin to a B2B buyer intent signal. For us, it's kind of, how do I maybe it's completely it's like a different lane entirely. It's kind of, hey, what are the best side hustles in 2026 to put extra money in my bank account? Hey, well, you could be making way more money doing Roamr when you travel for work. So it's a totally different play there for us. It's hard to point the guns.
That is true, and you should do all of that. But it's not just a side hustle, because the amount of people that don't have to travel for work ever is much higher than the ones that do. So you have to have that layer of targeting first. You do not give a shit about someone unless they travel for work more than once a year, because the amount of people that travel like once might be quite high, but that's not a power user. You want someone that's traveling like quarterly minimum. My brother is on the road 250 nights a year, and he is a Marriott Diamond. I mean, the company spends $300,000 a year on his travel. He does $35 million a year in sales for an oil and gas manufacturer out of Italy. I mean, a pipe manufacturer for oil and gas industry. And he travels all around the U.S. He's an absolute road warrior. A lot of that 300K is golf and booze and steaks, but still, I mean, so a lot of things to answer what you said. This has already been the longest, but a podcast I think I've done, but I'm still going to go into this because, so first, like I said, again, not insulting anything. We don't want to do the side hustle thing, because the first layer has to be that they already travel for work. So all the targeting, all the marketing effort is focused on that. With regards to, is the focus more on the individual employee and the bottoms up? I think yes. I think that the company, you can do the search. So the search stuff I was talking about was for the company. If there is a company out there that really wants to save money on business travel, they will move quick and they will come inbound. You want them to discover you. Now, the individual employee is going to be acquired through outreach and paid advertising. And so they're not going to search for it. They're going to see it and be like, oh my God, I can have a fun trip with my friends and save money on this. I'm going to bring this to my org. That's through reaching out to them or through them seeing an ad. So outbound, you get the individual employee. Inbound, you can get the company. You can also get the company through outbound, but I think it will be considerably harder. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that an individual that does it will champion it in the org if you turn them into a marketing agent. So there needs to be marketing automation. Hey, you just got back. We'll give you 10% of the first year of revenue we make from your org if you bring this to the whole org. So now our average champion, like we turn you into a Roamr champion, our average champion makes $6,500 in a year. Like they're going to go straight to that meeting and be like, guys, I just had this amazing trip. And then that will bring it to the org. They'll see that Jennifer was safe and that they didn't get wasted, work got done. And then all of a sudden they can do 30% more travel this year. And so I think that's enough for this morning. Got up early for you, Steve. Do you have any last minute questions or things you want to say? How can people find Roamr? It is spelled differently, just if you're listening to this.
It is spelled differently. Yeah, it's over the shoulder here. ROAMR. We're at roamr.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Stephen Dooley with a PH. We've got a pretty nascent TikTok page. Any of those places is where you'll catch us. But the big thing is if anybody's actually traveling for work and wants to do a Roamr stay, that would be the coolest thing ever, right? You can log on, you can sign up for free. What you can do is price up a trip and then you send off an invite to your friend, like a Calendly link, being like, hey, do you want to host me? And you both get paid. So that's the push. Get folks in the door, get people earning money, and hopefully we get that network effect and the flywheel kicking off from there.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think 2026, a lot more business travel is going to happen. Like things are feeling very exciting here in San Francisco in general, and people are more pissed off at the remote stuff and they're like, fuck it, let's just go meet, And so that's really the essence of Roamr also, is like now you can just go meet because it's way more affordable. And so really appreciate what you're doing for the travel space, getting people back out there, fighting the good fight. We're still got a little bit of dust on us from COVID left still. And so I really appreciate what you're doing. Stephen, thank you so much for making time and appreciate you being here.
No stress. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much for getting up early.
Absolutely.
That has been another episode of the Funded Now What podcast with your host, Andrew Lee Miller, brought to you by GrowthExpertz. If you liked this episode, please subscribe. And if you really liked it, please share with other founders and entrepreneurs. Thanks. And we'll see you in the next episode.